I'm Arne Shepelenko. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer at Staex GmbH, which is also part of the IoT+ network. And what we are doing in Staex is that we have built a networking and orchestration tool for IoT. We are working with the multiple industries, so basically everything that is related to IoT. And with regards to telecommunication, we offer a solution for machine-to-machine communication that is secure and encrypted and does not require hardware support for the encryption. And the solution can be operated at the same cost as non-cellular networks and provide the same or even higher security level. And today we have three other speakers that I'm very excited to have. So we have, first of all, Arne Aßmann, who will be the first one to present. He is a VP Commercial at Once, and Once is the name of the startup. It's incredible. They are backed by Deutsche Telekom and SoftBank, and now expanding to Asia, and he will tell more about this. And also he will share about the evolution of IoT industry and the history of messaging and unified communication. And he will share the patterns that he has seen with telecommunications and IoT. And the second speaker today is Roland Becker. He is an electrical engineer, but now, if I'm correct, head of business development and a co-founder of Digital SIM GmbH. And so among other things, he also worked in Telefónica Deutschland O2, and he will be sharing about the enabling projects independent. I mean, the Digital SIM GmbH, he will tell more about this, but it's an independent provider for mobile communication solutions for the Internet of Things and machine-to-machine communication. And we have the third speaker, Dr. Georg Riegel, which is probably the oldest company in here. Started in 2003 and already expanded to 40 countries worldwide. And he will be sharing today about the sensor technology that you have built, right, Georg? So I'm going to give a floor to our first speaker, Arne Aßmann. Arne, you can share your presentation. We will have about 10 minutes for each presentation, and then you can ask your questions. You can post them in the channel, and then we will give you the floor to give a little bit more context to your question. So please, Arne, looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you. And I hope everyone can see my screen by now. It should be working. Yes, I see thumbs up. Thanks for that. And first of all, thanks to the IoT+ team to organize these coffee breaks. I'm really a fan of this format and happy to present it to now also once in a year. What do I want to talk about today? You know, this is an IoT network event. I don't want to talk too much about Once, hence, of course, it's within the nature to talk about ourselves. However, I want to talk more about the things why we do it, why we do the things the way we do it, and what is the reason why exactly we have built the things around Once the way we do in a global landscape. And one of the key essences I want to talk about is that we see IoT now changing from being a very networks-based business now becoming a very software-driven business. And taking this into account leaves a lot of kind of thinking around how to really provide services in IoT to customers. And I want you to invite to really think together with me, what does it mean for us IoT experts to provide services? So let's start it. I mean, and before I go and explain why do we see this kind of trend going on, we need to, of course, look back into history, which gives us the best evidence why things are happening the way they are. If you look at messaging and unified comms, there is a trend that happened. It was invented, actually, you could say, by operators, by network providers to say, and is now being dominated by software players. And I make it short. This, of course, is very likely to happen for IoT as well. Think it through. IoT very much was discussed by operators. It's all about these Deutsche Telekom, Telefónicas, and so on. However, now talking about who are the leaders in those markets, we're more and more talking about the AWSs, Azures, and the platform providers, but less about the communication providers. Hence, what is the essence of that? You can see by looking back into what happened to messaging and unified comms, maybe there's a learning in it, why this has happened, and what is the ingredients of software players that still are dominating in these markets that we can learn out of that to reproduce that or even make it better for IoT. And just to give you some kind of evidence, you can see, and I hope you agree with me on the kind of evidence or historical wise, that messaging, it was invented. If you look at DT, Vodafone, AT&T, they all had applications. Nowadays, we are using Zoom. We are not using Teams anymore. So it's really about services that are invented and have been done by software players. What is the essence? What do they do differently from our perspective? First of all, it is about software. Secondly, it's a software that brings global value for users. And it's about how they distribute their services. And if you look quickly into the three kind of things that they can do very well, here is some thinking around what we really can learn. Software. Software allows companies to be fast, flexible, and cooperative. What do we mean by that? Look at Twilio. Twilio is a software company allowing you to integrate their APIs so you can integrate communication services simply with some lines of code. What have they done? Simple and good. They containerize the services, they share that kind of code and make it open source. And if you look at how Twilio progresses, this gives evidence that this is really, really important for customers. Second, flexibility. Software needs to work on most of the hardware, even though on networks. It needs to work on a phone, on a computer, tablet, watch, and so on. There is more to come. And thinking of IoT, it even needs to work on every simple device that we want to connect. Cooperative. It needs to be integrable to the typical ecosystems. If you think of software, nowadays we're using software from Apple, from Azure, from Android, from Microsoft, and so on. So this is one thing that software brings into play. Second, it's global value for users. If you think like a software company, it is all about to reinvent yourself. So it's simple features that bring convenience to customers that are super relevant and make it sticky to customers. Think of it. We're just using Zooms. It brings so many features that nowadays we can actually do webinars over it. They're adding features constantly over and over again. And all about what we are doing here, it's so easy to use it. The usability is key. It's great. It works. And it's working with a single sign-on. So I just had to click on a button and I was in and I can talk to you right now. It's that simple. And you can do it, and this is most important, from everywhere in the world. Last but not least, distribution. If we think of software, again, Zoom, we can get it easily and freely in the internet. But anyhow, customers decide if they want to pay for it or not. And if you look at Zoom and they're paying customers, you can see an increase, of course, also due to the COVID situation. But I would say also due to the fact that the service is so convincing to customers that they are easy and they are willing to pay for this service. It is provided through digital channels, so you can get it and grab it easily in the typical app stores we are using every day. And this for me is key, the last part, it's self-service. It allows you to get it up and running in below 5 minutes. And think of it, if it wouldn't be the case, if you would have to go through an installation process that takes you more than that, let's be honest, we wouldn't use it. We would say, I go to Zoom because it's quicker there, or I use WhatsApp. Why shouldn't I go to the pain of going it in a complex way if it's so easy with software? So now coming back to IoT, what have we learned, or what we need to look and face very clearly? What should we be doing in IoT is it needs to be in the cloud, it should be global, and it needs to be sold digitally. But frankly, and please, everyone, look into our eyes and say, how do we do IoT today? We are very much still looking at networks. We're talking about roaming, we're talking about LoRa and all these technologies. But hey, guys, this is just the network that transmits some data. It really should be about the value that customers need to create on top of that, not this kind of technical stuff. This is something that we need to solve through software. Again, when we talk about to customers, we're very much still, a lot of the vendors out there are thinking domestically, but we need to think, provide IoT globally. This is super important. And most operators we see, if you look at them, they're still thinking in the domestic markets rather than global. But hey, we know all, IoT is a global business. We have customers that are, of course, billing from Europe, but of course, deploy everywhere in the world because they do not know where their devices will be landing at the end. And of course, how do we sell IoT as of today? A lot of direct and B2B sales focused we can see still. So what is the essence? Why I think it is important in IoT to focus more on software rather than on network? And what is the kind of essence that especially IoT OTT players can bring into play? And what do I mean with IoT OTT players? If you think of the typical operators, the Deutsche Telecoms and Vodafones, what is their essence? Where are they good at? They're good at networks. Where they're not good at, it's IT, it's overhead, it's sales. Why aren't they good? They are good, but they are very cost intensive. Now looking at IoT OTT players, MVNO software players, where are they good at? They're good at IT because they develop IT and software in-house. They can operate very flat. They have low hierarchies, only the relevant people they need, no overhead and people, and they can start to sell on a digital channel. What is their downside? It's still, of course, they do not own the networks because the networks they need to lend or need to go through wholesale to the operators. However, this is already the first step that we can see a lot of savings, a lot of features already can be gained by focusing less on IoT and going into the next step of being an OTT player. Now, where's the value? Where should we focus on with IoT, providing IoT? We at once, we provide IoT connectivity. So what are the pain points that we see? It's, first of all, we need to provide services globally. We often talk about large device estates, so not just 5, 10, or 100 devices, no, thousands to 10,000, sometimes even millions of devices that we are talking about. Also, a lot of the devices, we're talking about low value assets, some small trackers with a value of 50 euros at the bill of material. So not very much of value often, but in the kind of estate or in the kind of scale, very relevant either. And of course, very often long device cycles. So the customer points that we see today is really, there is no coverage, there is no network. They need to maintain the services. So everything that customers are focusing is very much still in the operative kind of domain, whether it should always be more on the value, because what we have learned for software, it should focus on value, it should be usability, it should be ease of use, all that stuff, not this kind of maintenance stuff. This should be done by the supplier, by the software operator, to overcome the complexity of costs and the uncertainty of the technology we choose. And looking at our customers, we see, if you look at typical customer behavior studies, how do customers want to get their services? Right? So if you look at the two most relevant personas that I see in IoT, it's the decision maker and it's the developers. The decision maker is the one who says, oh, we need to do something. The developers, the IT staff, it's the guy, oh, you need to do it. What the decision maker says. So how do both want to purchase their services? If you look at decision makers, they want to get their services through a digital channel. For me, this was surprising, but at the end, once I thought about it, it wasn't, because they want to quickly educate themselves, want to see what's the benefit of self-service. You can clearly get a transparent view on what you're purchasing. You're obliged to do so if you are a provider in digital. And now even this is less surprising, but even more important, the developers, the people who need to build the IoT solutions, they actually prefer not to even interact with one sales representative anymore. So this is the essence. We need to do digital self-service. Sorry to do the recap on once, last final words. Of course, we try to do and actually transform these kind of learnings into our DNA. So what we do is we have a web shop. You can go there, order our connectivity, manage it, operate it, even develop with it so that you can quickly enhance your features based on our services. We do this with success. We have now over 10,000 customers everywhere in the world, one in the last 4 years. We have been founded in 2018 and now manage over 10 million connections and have a team of 250 people all across the world. Just opened today our web shop in Asia. So people in Tokyo, in Miami, in Sao Paulo, in Riga, but also here in Germany, which is important due to the fact that I just mentioned. Providing a global service means you have to be a global company also in order to really maintain the local, how you could say, customizations. It's important to also adhere to this local specification and requirements. Otherwise, I think customers might not benefit all of that because we're still in a very technical sphere. Hence, we go together in our markets with our partners and equity partners, which is Deutsche Telekom. So we do a joint go-to-market with Deutsche Telekom in USA and Europe, and we do the same with SoftBank in Asia.
Arne, we have only 1 minute left.
I'm almost done, promised. Okay. So last but not least, of course, we are adding connectivity. To connectivity, we are adding software services in order to allow customers, because we know connectivity is just a part in the middle of the IoT value chain. So we want to really interact with what customers are using. It may be a platform, like take Digimondo, take AWS, Azure, it's all there. You can always have a platform in place, but what is important, it needs to work. Interoperability is key. So what we do is we extend our services to very relevant parts, but not interacting into those domains, to make it more easy for customers to use our service in conjunction with their preferred services they have already. Last but not least, just to give you a standpoint, why it is important for us not just to stand at the point that why it is important, why we partner together with Deutsche and SoftBank, because this allows us, you remember my saying about IoT OTT players, which are basically MVNOs. With us, we're basically using the networks and access of Deutsche Telekom and SoftBank, which allows us again also to reduce the network costs, which is important because what I just said is, it allows us, of course, everyone is saying, hey, you're really, really cheap, right? And everyone is asking, is this sustainable? Yes, it is. Actually, it is so sustainable that we need to have this margin in order to invest in new services. Because remember what we were saying, it is important to always increase your features and usability. And this is what we do at once. We become a software company globally everywhere in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arne. We have time for a couple of questions. Please share them in the chat or just raise your hand, and we will give you the opportunity to say the question. Meanwhile, I can ask my question while we are waiting for anything. So I saw that you pointed out that what's happening now is that we should be going to the cloud, but we are concentrating on the networks. And could you elaborate on that? Because what I have seen on the market is that exactly the opposite is happening, is that the cloudification is going a little bit behind, opening the space for the distributed networks. And like, what do you see? Like, what's from your perspective, what's happening, and what are the disadvantages of the network and the advantages of clouds that we are not seeing?
That's a good question. my answer to the question would be, it depends on who you're talking to in the industry. What I have in mind when presenting this is it's the end customer for IoT solutions. Because believe it or not, my guess would be they do not want to cope with anything what has to do with networks. They do not want to have the expertise even on managing an HLR, a radio signal, diameter, all that stuff. That's none of their business. That needs to be done by engineers, so by experts. Yes, the cloudification is a key to make it even more softwareized. That's important, so you can softwareize a lot of the network functions, but this should only be a kind of technological advantage in order to allow customers to easily gain access to the technology. But would it be beneficial for customers to get also control over these services? Only if they understand how to use it. I've been working on a 5G project. Believe me, this is a technology which has just started. To expect customers are mature enough to really make the use out of it, I don't expect this is really beneficial for customers. So it always needs to be a managed service, which is basically the answer to the question for the time being. Maybe there is a time where customers get educated enough, but I think due to lack of skill, it should be the other way around.
But don't you think that the companies providing the services should take, all the hassle from, from the customer side to the provider side, so that the end customer only gets the value, but all the complexity is just solved on the level of the service provider?
Yes, exactly. And I think, yeah, that's, it should be as simple as that. Go to a platform, whatever, go there and try to really make the configurations at a self-service so customers can quickly do it. But the magic behind, which is really a complicated stuff when talking about this with our network engineers, honestly, I can follow 5 minutes, then I'm lost. So, and I've been doing this now for over 10 years, and it's still very, every time I learn something new. So I think it needs time until customers are educated enough on that one. Hence, the answer to it would be software can be the tool or the kind of philosophy behind to make these services more convenient, usable to customers.
Thank you very much, Arne. Are there any questions? We have place for one more question. Otherwise, if we have time in the end, we can also address them if you think of them later. Okay. And with that, I would like to invite Roland Becker from Digital SIM GmbH to present his innovation in the communication tech.
Thank you, Anna. So first of all, thank you to the IoT+ network for having me. I don't know how about everybody else, so I brought my IoT coffee today. I hope you have a nice one too. So I'm I'm an engineer, and I'm doing mobile communications since 1994. I was studying electrical engineering on the University of Aachen, and my professor said, look, there's this new license, it's called D2. And by the way, the professor was evaluating the technical part for the license decision. So he was basically giving the license to Vodafone back then, Mannesmann Mobilfunk. So, and I spent a lot of time in Telefónica, and as an engineer, now I see that there's especially in Germany, there's lots of talks why digitization is not moving ahead in Germany at the speed that we see in other countries or as we expected. And to me, there's one thing which we can really do better in Germany in terms of digitization, and that is where Arne and I have a lot in common, because our two companies have a shared goal there to make connectivity in the space of IoT easier. And then the story begins in a tram, in a public transport in Karlsruhe, and there's this ticket machine in this tram in Karlsruhe, and you see the upper picture. Yeah, so you see this payment machine, this ticket machine, but all the online payment possibilities are striked out. Yeah, so the Visa card and the MasterCard and the EC card, it's not usable. You can only use Geldkarte, which is which is now gone because it was offline, right? It's the only offline payment apart from coins and so on. So there is obviously something went wrong because somebody bought this ticket machine. It has a payment, it has electronic payment, but it's not online, so they had to stop this kind of payment. Yes? And maybe they just were not able to purchase the right SIM card for that ticket machine, right? And that's what we want to change. And another really stupid thing is this vending machine where you usually get drinks and snacks and you can throw in some coins and you get a Wi-Fi password. So it's saying WLAN, ein Tag, 3 Euro. Yeah? So €3 for a WLAN password that you can get from the vending machine. So this is not what we want. We want from always offline to always online. So that's the way we wanted to support going, and not just for companies who are really advanced, but for like the real Deutscher Mittelstand, for the small and medium enterprises, and also for the startups who really just have a lot of things to think about and not just struggle with connectivity. So just to get you in what I'm talking about, what are the traditional end-to-end use cases using SIM cards and cellular? These are the payment, as I just showed. This is the vending. This is, of course, fleet management and all kinds of tracking, but also in the construction and in the traffic. And more and more, connected is becoming the new normal. So with electromobility, maybe you know every public charge point is having a SIM card inside, and all the solar parks, they need SIM cards. The windmills, and the coffee machines have been an example used a lot because it sounds fancy, but it's also reality. So all the public or business coffee machines are becoming connected. So there's really thousands of companies who have never had to do something with IoT and with connectivity. They are now changing their products, and they need professional SIM cards, IoT SIM cards with all the special functions. And I'm going to introduce here just briefly Digital SIM GmbH. So as I said, we as founders have a lot of experience in the mobile business, and our portfolio is we have more than 10 SIM profiles of international carriers. So what we do is basically reselling those profiles, and we're providing connectivity for German-only use cases, for European use cases, and also for worldwide use cases. So for example, for the if you look at my camera for the US, we're providing like a Verizon SIM card, an AT&T SIM card, and also a T-Mobile SIM card, but that's not nicely labeled. So it's just white like these here. And you can our customers can purchase that through Digital SIM here in Germany and manage this on our own platform. Where you have an inventory of all your SIM cards, and we put our own tariffs on top. And also, I will give you a look inside our customers, which are the typical small and medium enterprise customers who, just need some connectivity for the solution. And I will go through some examples to show you what's special about IoT SIM cards. For example, the digital signage use case. So imagine a company who wants to place 1,500 screens across Germany, and it will be in some stores, in some supermarkets, in some shopping windows, and basically everywhere they go, there's Wi-Fi. But Wi-Fi is not the technology you should use when you have 1,500 screens, especially not the Wi-Fi in places you don't own. So you would be dependent on all the password changing. They have a new router and your device gets offline, becomes offline. So what you want is a multi-network SIM card. So what is it? It's a SIM card that uses all 3 networks in Germany. So you don't have to really care if there's Deutsche Telekom has the best network, if Vodafone is covering the mall in Berlin, or if O2 is covering whatever place in Munich. So you use multi-network SIM cards, and you're just connected whenever there's any base station around. And also it helps you in terms of redundancy. So if there is a problem with one of these networks and there's another network available, you're still online. And then there's the process, which is important, yeah, because when you do something like that in large amounts, you want to order like a stack of SIM cards and then take them in use or activate them whenever you want. So you don't want to go to the operator and then they activate the SIM card and you need it like 2 months later and pay for it already. You just do that when you configure your devices and when you bring them into service. And regarding the multi-network, imagine, so this is a real life example. I've been speaking in this hotel, this little black spot in the middle. It's somewhere not too far from Nuremberg. And imagine there would have been this coffee machine, which shall be online, and you have only one network. And this is real life where the base stations are, and the green and the red dots, they show like good or bad reception. And really, in that hotel in the basement with this network, you would have a problem connecting this coffee machine. And if you have a multi-network SIM, you can use all these antennas. And luckily, one of the operators just decided to put an antenna really next door to the hotel at the Autobahn. And that is definitely good enough to give you service inside the hotel on the ground floor to connect your coffee machine. So this is a very practical example how important it is to have multi-network SIM cards to connect your devices effectively. And another one is talking about predictive maintenance in mining. You may know what predictive maintenance is. So you have a lot of sensors on these large trucks, which actually carry 150 tons of payload. And if there's something stopping this, if there's an outage on this machines, that's a really expensive incident. So you want to know ahead. The challenge for this company was that, of course, these mines are not only in Germany, they are in South Africa, they are in the States, and they asked for quotes at network operators. And this was 2019. And the network operator quoted them €5 per megabyte for the US and for South Africa. So €5 per megabyte is a bit too much if you want to have 3 gigabytes of data, because that would cost you €15,000 just for the SIM card per month, per truck. And this is a high margin use case. You can save a lot of money, but nobody would spend €15,000 on a SIM card for that. So we put it down to €50. So it's very important to have access to worldwide connectivity at reasonable pricing. And that was not given in Germany just a couple of years ago. And that is a very competitive disadvantage for the German industry, because in other countries that's not a big problem.
Ronald, a couple of minutes.
Yeah, thanks. And then last but not least, the autonomous cleaning robots. Also here, you have SIM cards, you have these nice little LTE gateways that have been put into the devices. And with that, you can get on these devices. And so the last thing here that you should use is a management platform. So for those guys, we provided European SIM cards, but also Asian SIM cards. So when they shipped the robots to Singapore a couple days later, you could see in the portal, okay, there is a 5 GB, 10 GB, 20 GB, 30 GB, 40 GB, 50 GB, 60 GB, 70 GB, 80 GB, 90 GB, 100 GB, 200 GB, 300 GB, 400 GB, 500 GB, 600 GB, 700 GB, 800 GB, 900 GB, 1 TB, 1 TB, 2 TB, 3 TB, 4 TB, 5 TB, 6 TB, 7 TB, 8 TB, 9 TB, 10 TB, 11 TB, 12 TB, 13 TB, 14 TB, 15 TB, 16 TB, 17 TB, 18 TB, 19 TB, 20 TB, 21 TB, 22 TB, 23 TB, 24 TB, 25 TB, 26 TB, 27 TB, 28 TB, 29 TB, 30 TB, 31 TB, 32 TB, 33 TB, 34 TB, 35 TB, 36 TB, 37 TB, 38 TB, 39 TB, 40 TB, 41 TB, 42 TB, 43 TB, 44 TB, 45 TB, 46 TB, 47 TB, 48 TB, 49 TB, 50 TB, 51 TB, 52 TB, 53 TB, 54 TB, 55 TB, 56 TB, 57 TB, 58 TB, 59 TB, 60 TB, 61 TB, 62 TB, 63 TB, 64 connectivity used in Singapore at the StarHub network or the Singtel network. So that's what the management platform gives you. And all this can be integrated, of course, by APIs. So to summarize, that's basically what you should expect from a professional IoT connectivity. And it should be available from starting from 1 or 5 SIM cards for your prototype. And that's what's important for the industry to have. And yeah, thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Roland. We have a question from Gonzalo. So maybe,
yes.
Gonzalo, you could voice it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Roland, for the presentation. So I had a question. I think it could be answered by you or also from Arne, but I was wondering if you could identify which are maybe the 4 most important things where the big network providers are failing, so that IoT focused companies are addressing.
Yeah, I can start right away with 2. First of all, I've been in the network operator for almost 20 years. And the network operator, the local network operator, doesn't care about the roaming rates they are getting outside Europe. It's just not in their P&L. It just doesn't matter. Yeah? And if it's cheaper, it's actually harming their stock price because it's reducing revenue. So Deutsche Telekom, Vodafone, and Telefónica have no interest in buying cheaper in China or in South Africa, the roaming. So that's why that's really bad for IoT, but that's how their business works, because consumer is a big thing, then there's business, and then there's IoT. It's just a little fraction of their business. And second thing is the sales. I'm very much with Arne. There's digital sales, and that's the future. But we are addressing companies who are really not that far in the process. So we have to take them there, and operators offer this type of managed connectivity that you get from Digital SIM only in the enterprise segment. So it's really B2B salespeople from Vodafone, for example, they don't sell you this type of SIM card. So you have to be a Bosch or a Daimler or something to purchase this kind of service. So that's the 2 I can contribute.
Okay. Yeah, if I may add to this, I actually would see 4 points as requested. Let me start with the most relevant one. The first one is speed. So everyone is talking about digitalization and stuff. So the moment where customers want to install, deploy something, they need to have someone to rely on. How can you guarantee that there is someone helping you with the matter? And believe me, IoT is technically, so it really is about, okay, why is the network not attaching? Why is the module not responding? What is wrong there? What is in Italy? It's a lot of reasons, root cause analysis. So this is really something super relevant. How can you solve that? First of all, you need to have a global team that reacts with your customers where their deployments are. Operators are in most cases are deployed domestically, which is already the second issue, but let me stick to the first one. So they are focused on the domestic market, hence they cannot go to provide you service all around the globe. This is number 1. Second problem on speed is they are still focusing on B2B direct sales. A lot of customers, and you saw my statistics on how customers prefer to interact. They want to do self-service. If you quickly go into in a library where you can find everything, it's super simple. And the more you can allow customers to do by themselves, the quicker they can solve it. And you need to allow them to give the relevant tools and features quickly right away. Speed, number 1. Number 2 is global. Operators are very often still focusing on domestic markets. And Roland, you have explained it very well. So they're thinking basically about selling solutions to their own market. What happens beyond sometimes matters, but in most of the cases, they don't care because they might interact with some other parties. They might interfere with something. So it's against their nature. There are exemptions, but most of the operators have a problem. The third one is they focus still very much on connectivity because it's what they can do best. Of course, they claim to do even more. They have solutions in place. Like if you go to Verizon, they have an automotive solution, they have asset tracking solutions, but it's really end-to-end bundled solutions. But if you then look at what customers want to do, it's like with going to Obi or Bauhaus, customers want to do it themselves. They don't very often do not want to have these already fixed solutions. They want to make it here and there customized to their needs. So it is still, you need to be flexible. And the fourth one is costs. Like I said, and I don't need to explain this further. You need to offer IoT services at low costs. So for instance, with once you pay $10 or the 10 euros and you get the service everywhere in the world for just a flat rate. It's as simple and no additional costs, 10 euros for 10 years of service. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo, for a great question, and Arne and Roland for the very comprehensive answer. We still have one, since we have a little bit limited time, the speakers will be available to answer your questions personally after this event. I'm sure they will be very happy to get your questions, but we still have Georg Riegel from deZem, who wants to share about his sensor innovation. Georg, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Yep, I'm not selling multi-carrier SIM cards. But our business at deZem is a large data platform, which I'm going to show you a little in a moment. And what I would like to present to this coffee break here is the little sensor that we have made for the IoT. It is a sensor that you can connect current transformers to. I don't know if you all are aware of what a current transformer is. These are clamp-on current transformers. Like this one here, which you can clamp around any supply line for electricity. There are small ones like this one. There are large ones for many hundreds of amperes and everything in between. And you just connect them to our little sensor, and then you get LoRaWAN data. And the nice thing is it is energy harvesting, so it does not need a battery. Now, we are selling this by many, many thousands, and it's easy to calculate how many batteries our clients would have to change every day, even if the batteries last for years or more. Yeah. Okay, maybe just a quick introduction of myself and deZem. As said, we focus on a large data platform. I'm going to share my screen for a moment. I have a few slides here. Where is it? This one? No, where is it? Hidden somewhere. Sorry. There. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and sorry, I didn't pay attention. This is actually German, but there are very few words in German. Our office, and what I would like to show you is I'll skip this part on Teams and so on as well. We're a bit short on time. We're active in over 40 countries, as Anna already said, and our clients are very broad in their fields of activity. Like, for example, Bayer here. I hope you can see my mouse. They use our platform in all their industry plants worldwide, and a couple of others as well. Very intensely. And it's not only IoT. We are active since 20 years, almost 20 years. And IoT and LoRaWAN and so on just started much more recently. So a lot is data from all kinds of sources. And in particular, we use a lot of data loggers like this, classic data loggers where you have wired connections, the MBus, Modbus, BACnet, one wire, and so on. These loggers that do all of that. Many times they have an integrated SIM card as well. This device, for example, has LTE integrated, so we equip it typically with a SIM card, and use that as a device on site to gather all kinds of data, put that on the platform. Yeah, this is hardware as well, but I'm going to switch. Sorry, sharing this. No, I didn't really want to stop it. I wanted to switch to my browser, which is here. Okay. Here I'm going to quickly show you a little bit of what happens when you connect this current sensor. And please interrupt me if it's not clear what this is actually doing, this kind of sensor. This is, I don't know if the image came across. This is one very nice element in an ecosystem of many ways of gathering data. And this in particular is LoRaWAN. So we connect many thousands, hundreds of thousands of data points for our clients, and we obviously try to avoid cables. But we then, if we do that, also need to avoid battery, right? That's important to our clients. It's also very important to the environment. I don't know if you're aware of the enormous quantities of batteries. About 20 million IoT devices need to get their batteries exchanged every day globally. So you can imagine how much lithium that is, and the environmental burden that means for these lithium mines as well. Right. So this one doesn't have this kind of battery. You connect it to a little power source, which then you use on your supply line. So all over the building or the industry plants and so on, you connect that to the cooling machines, the ventilation equipment, lighting, whatever is pumps and so on, that you have in your industry plants or buildings of any kind. And then you get curves like this. This is, for example, from our office. This is probably at this point, someone is cooking, is boiling a coffee or something. So there's a little peak here. This is also a nice thing that this sensor does, which is that we made it detect events. So if when the value changes, you get extra data points. Like here, for example, if I move in here, you see at night, this is in the morning when there was no one actually in the office, you get extra data points here. When the fridge in the kitchen starts working for a little amount of time, and then it stops again and so on. Yeah? And we just make sure that we get these events as well, which is very useful because this way you don't need to measure the fridge individually. You can do it, you can detect it and define how much it consumes just by detecting its consumption pattern very nicely, very neatly. Yeah? For example, you could extrapolate here the consumption in this situation with the fridge, and then you would just check what the consumption is without the fridge. I extrapolate for the year. Sorry for this being in German. I could switch it to English. The software is available in many languages, but the extrapolation to the year, you see the difference between the two numbers. This one is the former one. That is the consumption of the fridge. It's that easy. Right. Yeah. And then you can, of course, continue analyzing. Here we have many ways of showing data, the same data. This is actually the sum of 6 data points here for our office, in which consists of 2 floors, and there are 6 metering points here. Yeah, 6 of these devices here. Yeah, and so that's the way to play with that, and the connection is extremely easy. You just open the cupboard where the electrical distribution is. You click the sensor of the appropriate size around the supply lines that you would like to monitor, and connect it to the Harvey just with 1 click, and the data is online. So yeah, I hope, obviously we connected to our IoT platform and to our software, but we hope that it will create a lot of value for all others as well, using their own IoT platforms worldwide. Right now, the sensor is only for EU, I must say. It's the first version. It works with the 868 megahertz band EU. So no US or South America version yet, but that is coming within, I don't know, maybe 4 months or so. will be available for the other frequency, 915 megahertz as well. So basically, that is what I wanted to show you. Very practical approach, you know, a useful, nice little sensor, maintenance-free, with energy harvesting, does need battery. Can be used very nicely. You can equip, if you want to have demos, nice demo stuff for your office, for example, for your clients, with the event-based monitoring that this does, it might be a nice way to set up beautiful dashboards and so on. No? Okay, basically to save some time, I would leave it there, but of course I would be happy to answer some questions if there are.
Thank you very much, Georg.
All right.
Are there any questions? Yes, we have a question from Francisco.
Yes, do you support the public LoRaWAN networks, or do you have your own ones?
We have our own one, but we support, I mean, we have interfacing very nicely made, no latency and so on, interfaces to the TTN network, if that is what you are referring to. Yeah,
that's the industry standard.
Right, and yeah, so you can easily use TTN, and then on the TTN websites, you can actually, I'm not the specialist on that, there's a term, with a few clicks, you connect it to deZem, yeah? Or to your own platform, of course, yeah? Yeah, and the sensor, of course, comes with its JavaScript-based LoRaWAN decoder, payload decoder, so that should make it very easy for everyone as well to integrate, especially for TTS, TTN.
I have a question as well. I think I didn't send it to the entire channel, but
No worries.
I think I just received green light. Okay, thank you. So thank you, Georg, for the presentation. I have a question. So I think it's pretty smart the way you are harvesting energy, but I assume you have considered the case that the cable you are connecting to has no current flow. Have you thought of how would you deal with that? Are there any considerations of where would you what do you consider when you are installing it, and where you developing?
We've equipped the device with a large super cap, which right now allows for about 4, 5, 6 hours of working for the device once there's no current input. Okay. Mm-hmm. It will still send 0, 0, 0 every 15 minutes, and then it will go to sleep. No? Does someone know how to move the bar? Okay, now I got it from Zoom. Okay, just a moment. I think I had. Sorry, it's where did I hear? For example, there's an example here. This is an example that I just looked at. It's also data taken through this Harvey LR sensor, and this is from staircases. What's elektrische Fahrtreppen in English? Maybe someone can help me. You know, the staircases that move.
Escalator.
Huh? Escalator?
Escalator, yeah.
Electric? Okay, good. Okay, these two are escalators then. This is the data from today until now, you know, real time. And if I look at this for the week, the past 7 days, then you can see here, or the weekend, in this case, the staircases do not function. And then at some point, the sensor went to sleep. You know? And it started again on Monday morning after getting a little bit of current. But it needs only 125 microamperes to work. No? So it's extremely efficient. And yeah, it's not really a problem. And we're working on the next generation. We are sure that we will, through some optimizations, enhance the time that it will survive without any current input to more than 24 hours.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo, Georg. We only have a couple of minutes left. Unfortunately, probably not all the questions had an opportunity to be asked, but feel free to contact the speakers after the event. This recording will also be shared with those of you who are interested. And just to summarize, I want to thank all of you for participating in this event, and to also highlight that on the 22nd of November, there will be a next coffee break, which is related to the sustainability topic. And the speaker will be Doris Moyer from Umweltbundesamt, from Federal Environmental Agency. So you will get also more information from the IoT+ network in the upcoming days about this. And once again, thank you very much to the participants and the speakers. And we are looking forward to meeting you in 1 month for our next coffee break.
Anna, sorry, can I add one little thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe some of you are going to the SPS and Drives, the big automation and so on fair in Nuremberg, starting the 7th or 8th of November. So it would be great to meet there. We present ourselves there with free entry tickets if anyone is interested.
I can see some nodding heads.
Yeah?
Jonas, okay. Gonzalo, I think
okay.
There will be a really nice group of people joining.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank you, everyone, and
Thank you.
see you later.